Hey, what's happening? Welcome to Mates TV. So, Liverpool have signed Dominic Szoboszlai from RB Leipzig. Second transfer of the summer. Second piece of the puzzle in Jurgen Klopp's 2.0 rebuild of this side. Exciting. Very, very exciting. Very bold transfer move from Liverpool. And we've gone through a couple of weeks now, 2 or 3 weeks really, of there being a little bit of a lull of activity, a huge hive of activity with the season ending, and obviously Alexis McAllister coming in through the door pretty sharpish. No messing around with that one. That was clearly well agreed in advance of the season finishing, and they got that move and they got that done. £35 million-ish, brilliant deal for the Argentine World Cup winner. And then we've seen a number of links. We've seen what appeared to be the full length and breadth of Liverpool's midfield shortlist. We'd seen the names, obviously earlier on, Mason Mount. I talked about him earlier on in the year when I did my stupid, before the season had even finished, let's see how Liverpool's team's going to be at the end of the transfer window predictions video. It looked like Mason Mount at the time of recording was like he was going to be a Liverpool player, to be honest. Now, you know, Man United seems like it's pretty much done and dusted, kind of whatever. There was a name that was taken off the shortlist, but we all knew the names. The last couple of weeks, we spent the same day after day talking about the same names, and those names are Manu Kone, Kefren Turam, Gabri Veiga, Romeo Lavia, being probably thereabouts the key ones. A little bit of whispers and talk around Nicolo Barella as well, but then seemingly out of nowhere, Dominic Szoboszlai. There you go. It's a name that I think people who obviously play Football Manager and FIFA will be absolutely bang up on. It was a name I recognise because it's one that comes up so often when people talk around the hottest talents in Europe. You know, it was a shock that almost that Liverpool were going to go and push through this deal for him. Obviously became aware that there was a release clause and that Liverpool had obviously decided with the time ticking away on that one, it had to be done, had to be triggered before the end of June, by the 30th of June, in order for Liverpool to get him at that €70 million price. They needed to hurry and get things done, and by all accounts, they have. And I think there's something commendable about that. Not messing around for ages. You know, we've talked a lot about, in the last month or two, about how Klopp, you know, will want to get those guys in so that he can work with them in pre-season. Still a couple of weeks, still a few weeks away before that's the case. And they've been quite decisive, and it didn't feel like it was going to be. You know, I was starting to see things creeping into my timeline, things creeping into my inbox about why aren't Liverpool spending. There was Sky Sports, someone on Sky Sports, and said Liverpool were operating within like tight financial restrictions and all this kind of stuff. And look, that might yet be the case. That, you know, pushing the deal at £60-ish million might mean that some more wangling needs to be done. Maybe, you know, a player does need to move out the door in order for Liverpool to really press on with things. But what I like is they've not let this one pass them by. There was clearly interest in the footballer from other football clubs. Newcastle decided they weren't in it, and I just don't think he'd want to play for Newcastle over Liverpool as well. But if €70 million is actually quite a lot of money, it's certainly the most Liverpool will have paid for a midfielder up to this point. You know, I had a good old chat this last year about the valuations on midfielders. They get skewed sometimes by the fees that certain teams Enzo Fernandez, for example, has never been a £120 million footballer. He's just not. But Chelsea could afford to be stupid and pay his release clause, and that unfortunately taints the market a little bit. There's not many midfielders who go for big, really, really big money. It's a strange one. It's a really strange position for that. You know, you look at like the fact that Zidane's still in like the top 10 most expensive midfielders of all time. Kevin De Bruyne is in there for his move to Manchester City. But there's like players like Arthur Melo is in like the top 10 most expensive midfielders of all time. It's a strange position. We're starting to see money spent on it a bit more this summer. Tonali, of course, to Newcastle looks like big dough as well. But anyway, I'm kind of getting sidetracked on all this. The point is that Liverpool have identified what they needed to do, and there's where I've been quite calm about this, to be honest. Because there's clearly been those young players targeted, the ones that are all at the under-21 Euros, or have been the names that I've mentioned largely on that short list. It feels like they're available, and the question was, why aren't Liverpool pressing ahead with them? Tonali's at there. Newcastle seem to have decided, well, who cares, we'll get on with it. Thuram's there, Kone's there. Vega's there. Why aren't Liverpool going for it? And I always, rather than get wound up about what they're not doing, what I tend to do, I kind of always see the way I like to look at things, and the way I've always done is try and work out why. Try and work out the whys the decisions are being taken or not being taken. What is going on behind closed doors? And a lot of the time it's speculation, pure speculation. But I find that fun. I rather than just sit and stew and stress around these kind of things, which look, there's plenty of time for that, isn't there? I do that about the actual football when the team isn't winning. That's what I stress about. But like again, I like the whys and wherefores. I like to kind of fathom out what's going on behind us, what are the names on the walls, and why aren't they making those moves? And two speculations for me where I don't think they've pushed the button, because you don't want to waste money on a player who might get injured. The season's not over yet. That's an important thing. But also, sometimes if you just play the game a little bit, things open up for you. And if you rush out and you spunk all your dough up the wall in week one, because you know what the environment looks like, what the transfer world looks like, well, things happen, transfers happen, and agents sow seeds, things move on. Or not all. If all transfers could get done in the first month leading up to the transfer window open, I think they would. But the thing is, there's a reason why deadline day is always a flurry of activity, because landscapes change. And the key example of this for Liverpool is Alisson Becker. So, Liverpool have had plenty of examples of just going and getting footballers done. Fabinho is a brilliant example of that. In a random one, Naby Keita basically signed him a year early because that was a way to get that deal done. But Alisson Becker, I was there in Liverpool pre-season. Jurgen Klopp was briefing on the pitch. I think we played at Blackburn, did we? And he's briefing that Danny Ward's going to be Liverpool's goalie. And within 24 hours, they've had a bid accepted for Alisson Becker. Not because they just decided they wanted Alisson Becker. Liverpool don't do that. Liverpool have their targets, and they know the standing of those targets, but often it's out of budget, or they know the player's just not interested in it. Well, they know the club are just not going to accept anything less than a stupid, ridiculous bid, etc., etc. But again, situations change, and when situations change, you've got to be ready to pounce. And Liverpool, more than anyone of those top clubs right now, need to be able to pounce in the right situation, the right circumstance, because they're not Manchester City, they're not PSG, they're not Real Madrid, they're not Man United. And that is a variety of clubs who have lots and lots of money to spend, and some of them spend it really stupidly. Manchester United I'm talking about there, just to cut between the lines for you there. Liverpool can't afford to waste money. They can't afford to get this transfer window wrong. McAllister is a genius first step, and I talked about this on a video about how he kind of fits in terms of the minutes that Liverpool are looking to replace this summer. And I've written it down again, or I've gone back to my notes. So Milner played about 800 minutes in midfield. Keita played 491. Oxlade-Chamberlain played 525. Thiago played just short of 2,000. Fabinho played 3,500. Henderson played 2,500. And I said on that video that Alexis McAllister's 3,300 minutes for Brighton was effectively enough in one man to replace the minutes of all the midfielders who've left. Keep Thiago at 2,000 minutes. Take 1,000 minutes off Fabinho and 500 off Thiago, which would be enough, I think, to get those players, to get more and better out of all of those players. So you get to choose Thiago's minutes rather than just run him into the ground in 10-game spells. You get to play Henderson less and you get to play Fabinho less, and therefore you get a better footballer, 3 basically better footballers for the price of 1 player. Now, the problem is, of course, he's 1 player, so he can't actually play in all 3 midfield positions, but as a basis start, that was great. When you look at what Liverpool have done with SZOBOSZLAI, robust, fits the mould in terms of what we're looking for. For me, he's a Jordan Henderson, long-term Jordan Henderson replacement. Alexis McAllister looks like the new Thiago. SZOBOSZLAI looks like the new Jordan Henderson. And I'll come on to the third and obvious big elephant in the room in a minute. But what he played last season was 3,695 minutes of all comps, including Champions League football, which is good experience as well. That all of a sudden means that you can continue with the things that I've already discussed. That means that Jordan Henderson could play less. There's maybe a world where you can move Henderson and put him into rotation with maybe, let's say, and this might sound like an outlandish shout right now, but can he play a little bit of where Trent's playing? rather than a right back who comes into midfield, a midfielder who goes a bit back into right back. He's played there before. He's played at centre half before. I don't really think he'll be totally made up with that. But a guy heading into the twilight of his career, brilliant engine on him still, brilliant football brain, great desire, determination, professional, all that stuff. But also a really neat and tidy passer of the ball. Still has pace, is still capable of carrying it. Is still good at doing the metronomic things in the deep line midfield role, but actually is good further forward, but I don't think good enough for what the new role requirements are for where he was playing at the back end of last season. I don't think he scores enough goals, and I don't think he gets enough assists. But can he do a little bit covering there? Can he do a bit covering for Fabinho as well? And when the situation dictates it, bring him on in any position, have him shut down games, do a bit more Milner-like things next season. That sounds really nice to me. And SZOBOSZLAI means that you've got a guy. I mean, this is a guy who got 10 goals and 13 assists. Well done, Paul. I could have memorised that, didn't. 13 assists last season. Now, it's hard to replicate those numbers in the Premier League. You very rarely see anyone that Liverpool buy from any other league come in and match those levels, particularly in year one. It's a very difficult thing to do. But what I'd say is if someone can get that volume of numbers in the Bundesliga, then there's a chance that he could still get five or six goals for Liverpool. Maybe 10 would be outrageously good. And if you even halving those numbers, that's still better than most of Liverpool's midfielders have kind of achieved under Jurgen Klopp, to be perfectly honest. I think the aim is for more. I think the aim is for, look, like Curtis Jones got a couple of goals toward the back end of the season. I think we need more goals from those guys, because I don't think that Diaz is going to be a 30 goal or 25 goal a season winger. I'm not convinced on Nunes. I'm not sure Gakpo is going to be 25, but Salah's going to get you 30. And then if you can get 10-ish, around the 10 mark from each of your attacking midfielders, I think you're on to a winner. So this feels like, again, very much part 2 of 3 that I think Liverpool are going to do this window now. And I've said it for a while, I thought the bare minimum requirements was 2. I don't think this was the requirement that I felt. For me, the second requirement, the second most vital, if you're going to do it in order of importance, McAllister 1, because he covers all 3 of those positions if needed, because he's Premier League experienced already, and because of the fee. I just thought that was absolute priority number 1. Genius move to get that box first. But I honestly saw Kefren Turam, and I know he's seen as being a more box-to-box player, but I do see him as a Fabinho, a long-term Fabinho, or understudy short-term, replacement long-term, because of his physique. And because of the fact that I see some of the cutting out of balls that he does, the interceptions, I think he's got the raw talent to be a bit more of Liverpool, a bit more possession-based, a bit more attacking. I could see him adding a real extra element to that. But anyway, I'm getting carried away. The point is, I thought that having a real physical, I don't want to, I hate to use the term, but like more of a destroyer, and not, we use that like as like an anchorman thing, but you know what I mean? Someone who's really more aggressive and wants to win the ball back, wants the ball and wants to drive it forward from deeper positions. I really felt like that was priority number 2. Maybe the fact that this whole release clause thing has kind of forced Liverpool's hand a little bit, has meant this is going to happen. But I think if you've got McAllister, SZOBOSZLAI, and if you can go and box, let's just say Turam for the argument, I think that's midfield rebuild done. Because then maybe you need to move Thiago on, maybe. But all of a sudden, and even without him, by the way, I think Liverpool would be in a far stronger position right now than they were a week ago, or certainly at the end of last season, just in terms of the volume of quality, available, robust, talented footballers that they brought into the club. I think if you've got a midfield that's still got Fabinho and Jordan Henderson, possibly Thiago, but then you've also got Stefan Bajcetic, you've got Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai, that is a pretty good selection of midfielders. You've got Trent to throw into the mix a little bit there for a variety of circumstances. Very, very good. Very, very encouraging. I'm interested to see what they do next. If it's Kefren Turam, yeah, that feels like the complete circle. You can play an old school Liverpool midfield 3 of those 3. Kefren Turam in the 6, McAllister on the left, Szoboszlai on the right, and you've got you know, if you want to go back to that 4-3-3, there you go. You've got a perfect midfield three for that. If you're going to play the box midfield, let Trent do his thing and play those three. Or play combinations of Curtis Jones and Harvey Elliott and Fabinho and, you know, and all like Pachetta's brilliant. Very good, very encouraging. It's good to see Liverpool splashing the cash where it was needed as well. Hopefully that allays some of the fears, anxieties, and ultimately loads of whinging that happens. But telling that, of course, the deal was only like, it was only agreed that Liverpool were going to do the release clause, and I was already seeing what next, get Tehran. I was like, let's just enjoy this. Let's have a good old chat and a good old think about it. There's loads more content on this, by the way, over on the Redmen TV YouTube channels and on redmenplus.com. So if you want to go deeper with that, then please, I highly recommend that you do that. So I was over on the Empire of the Cop podcast this week as well, talking about our Bobby Firmino documentary and talking about SZOBOSZLAI as well. I put a code out on there. It was meant to be just exclusively for Empire of the Cop, but bollocks to it. You're here, I'm going to give it to you as well, because my TV subscribers are #1 in my mind. I love you all. Go to redmenplus.com, go to a Club Captain yearly subscription and use the code EOTK. It's meant to be caps, but I think it might work in lowercase, but EOTK, and you get 50% off a yearly subscription to Redmen Plus. You're going to get all the Bobby Doc, you're going to get all this summer transfer window, and this time next year, while we've done all of our Liverpool won the Europa League and Premier League title celebrations with Dominic SZOBOSZLAI scoring 1 million goals for us, you're going to have a whole year of wall-to-wall Liverpool coverage from inside the ground, outside the ground, expert insight, transfers, tactics, just documentaries, features, podcasts, the lot. It's amazing. Redmenplus.com, EOTK, 50% off a yearly Club Captain subscription. Get involved, because now is the time to do it. Anyway, drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it. If you think that this is a brilliant signing for the Reds, give it a big old like, and do share it on your socials as well if you want to have this chat spread with the wider world. That all helps. Anyway, thank you so much. Well done, Liverpool. Good business. Now go and do some more. Yeah, cheers.